The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq edged slightly lower on Wednesday as energy and financials rose, and some big tech stocks fell amid a rotation in portfolio holdings. Coca-Cola predicted sales will rebound this year after a pandemic hammered 2020, and the soft drink giant beat Wall Street estimates for quarterly profit due to aggressive cost-cutting. Interest from retail investors appeared to lift cannabis stocks broadly higher on Wednesday, signaling that the recent trading frenzy behind Reddit favorites such as GameStop is shifting to other companies. These and more on TFT News. I'm Mike Wallace, and this is TFT News. The planned sale of TikTok to Oracle and Walmart has been put back indefinitely as President Joe Biden reviews the previous administration's efforts to address potential security risks posed by Chinese firms.
The planned sale of TikTok to Oracle and Walmart has been pushed back indefinitely. That is according to a Wall Street Journal report on Wednesday. The move reportedly comes as President Joe Biden reviews the previous administration's efforts to address potential security risks posed by Chinese firms. Donald Trump's administration had argued that TikTok was a risk to US users, saying their personal data could be accessed by China's government. That allegation has always been denied by the app. Now TikTok parent ByteDance finds itself in a legal tussle with Washington. Many federal courts have barred the Commerce Department's bid to shut down TikTok's US operations. The app has been in talks with Oracle and Walmart since September over a deal to shift its US assets to a new entity. That was intended to circumvent a total ban on its use in the country. There was no comment on the latest reports from any of the companies involved.
The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq edged slightly lower on Wednesday as energy and financials rose, and some big tech stocks fell amid a rotation in portfolio holdings.
The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq drifted slightly lower in a choppy session Wednesday. Materials and energy shares lifted the Dow, while a big slide in Tesla and declines in Amazon and Apple pulled the Nasdaq down. Just as on Tuesday, the indexes made minor moves. The Dow rose 0.1%, but the S&P 500 finished flat, and the Nasdaq edged down 0.25%. Gerber Kawasaki CEO Ross Gerber said the markets need a new shot of adrenaline.
If you look at today's trading, I wouldn't take much out of it, is that the market's moved up a lot. There's some dissonance here with the data between what's happening with earnings and what's happening in Congress. And so we need a new catalyst to move higher.
Cannabis stocks rose after posts touting pot stocks as the next GameStop spread throughout the Wall Street Bets forum on Reddit. Tilray skyrocketed more than 50%. Aurora Cannabis jumped 21%. Shares of Lyft got a lift. The ride-sharing company says more cost cuts and a rebound in demand in the second quarter should help it knock out a profit by the third quarter of this year. Investors heard from its arch-rival Uber after the bell. Quarterly revenue at its ride-hail and delivery businesses rose. The company said it's on track to produce an adjusted profit by year-end. But shares fell.
House Democrats prosecuting Trump's impeachment trial for inciting the deadly siege of the Capitol played chilling security video on Wednesday, showing members of the pro-Trump mob searching the building for his vice president.
Most of the public does not know how close these rioters came to you.
Never-before-seen security footage from the deadly January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol was presented to the 100 senators acting as jurors in Donald Trump's impeachment trial on Wednesday, showing themselves fleeing from rioters as House Impeachment Manager Eric Swalwell set the scene.
As you were moving through that hallway, I paced it off. You were just 58 steps away from where the mob was amassing and where police were rushing to stop them.
The new security video showed Senator Mitt Romney running to safety after the mob breached the Capitol, thanks to a last-minute warning from a Capitol police officer. Another new clip showed former Vice President Mike Pence being quickly ushered to safety, which was presented by impeachment manager Stacey Plaskett.
During the course of the attack, the Vice President never left the Capitol, remain locked down with his family inside the building. Remember that as you think about these images and the sounds of the attack.
The Democratic House managers had the floor on day 2 of Trump's second impeachment trial, presenting more graphic video of the siege, which they warned would be disturbing to children watching the trial, and chilling audio of Capitol Police overwhelmed by a mob of Trump supporters.
We lost the line! We lost the line! OMPD, pull back! OMPD, pull back up to the upper deck! OMPD, pull back to the upper deck! ASAP!
Lead impeachment manager Jamie Raskin argued that Trump not only planted the seeds for the Capitol riot with false claims of widespread voter fraud, but that he also abdicated his duty to keep Americans safe.
Donald Trump surrendered his role as commander-in-chief and became the inciter-in-chief.
House Manager Ted Lieu said after Trump's legal efforts to overturn the election and the courts failed, insurrection was the only other option.
President Donald J. Trump ran out of nonviolent options to maintain power.
Democrats also tried to tie Trump to the planning of the events on January 6th, claiming that the Save America rally did not have a permit to march to the Capitol until Trump stepped in.
It was not until after President Trump and his team became involved in the planning that the march from the ellipse to the Capitol came about, in direct contravention of the original permit.
And in an emotional plea to the senators, impeachment manager Madeleine Dean said they had an obligation to hold Trump accountable.
This attack never would have happened but for Donald Trump. For the first time in more than 200 years, the seat of our government was ransacked on our watch.
Trump's lawyers, who will have 16 hours to deliver their side of the argument after the House managers are finished, are expected to argue that the former president's rhetoric is protected by the First Amendment's guarantee of free speech, and that the individuals who breached the Capitol were responsible for their own criminal behavior.
Coca-Cola predicted sales will rebound this year after a pandemic hammered 2020, and the soft drink giant beat Wall Street estimates for quarterly profit due to aggressive cost-cutting.
Coca-Cola topped fourth quarter profit estimates, and that is fueling optimism within the company that 2021 will be a better year. Quarterly results released Wednesday showed the soft drink giant still had to cut costs aggressively during the October to December quarter to offset negative financial impacts caused by the health crisis. A third of its revenues come from non-retail channels such as restaurants, movie theaters, and sporting events, which were either closed or opened with dramatically reduced capacity. Coca-Cola expects that to change in the coming year as more people get vaccinated. Revenues last quarter dropped 5%, which was a slightly bigger drop than anticipated. To counter the softness in the market, the soft drink giant has been busy trimming brands that have not been selling well. It is also shifting more focus to popular drinks such as sparkling waters and zero-sugar sodas. Coca-Cola is also undergoing a major restructuring that includes the loss of thousands of jobs. Investors believe the global giant is doing the right things to prepare for a rebound in demand and sent the stock higher in Wednesday trading.
Interest from retail investors appeared to lift cannabis stocks broadly higher on Wednesday, signaling that the recent trading frenzy behind Reddit favorites such as GameStop is shifting to other companies.
The Reddit crowd has set its sights on something new: pot stocks. Shares in cannabis companies soared on Wednesday, fueled by positive posts on Wall Street Bets, the same Reddit message board responsible for the recent trading frenzy involving GameStop and AMC. In one post that received around 10,000 likes in about 12 hours, one user points to shares of Tilray and Aphria, telling other Reddit users that those stocks have more room to rise. Shares of Tilray jumped 27% to highs not seen in a year and a half. Aphria shares jumped to a record high in U.S.-listed trading on the Nasdaq. But it's more than just Reddit mania driving these stocks higher. Investors have been pushing up the sector for months, betting the Biden administration will decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. In addition, some Democrats have promised to make changes that could help give cannabis companies access to more traditional methods of banking and open the sector to new institutional investors. There are, however, skeptics. Some analysts think prices are becoming too high, especially for Tilray, Aphria, and Canopy Growth, 3 Canadian companies that are unlikely to see much upside from any federal legalization of marijuana in the U.S. And even with all the hype, it's still a money-losing business. Canopy Growth, the top pot producer this week, posted a quarterly loss. Nevertheless, the Reddit crowd thinks it has a winner in cannabis stocks, but the rise and fall of GameStop could serve as a cautionary tale. During the frenzy, that stock surged to a record high of $483. On Wednesday, it was back down to the $50 area.
In a major shift to combat plastic waste, Coca-Cola will use 100% recycled plastic bottles in the U.S.
One of the world's biggest producers of plastic waste is going green. Coca-Cola is changing its bottles in the US to be made from 100% recycled plastic. The new 13.2-ounce bottles of Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero Sugar, and Coca-Cola flavors will begin rolling out in select states in the Northeast, Florida, and California in February. 20-ounce bottles will be sold in California and New York beginning February, and in Texas by spring. Sprite will come in a new 13.2-ounce clear bottle packaging in select markets in February and will transition all packaging to clear bottles by the end of 2022. The beverage giant said the move would help reduce its use of new plastic by more than 20% across its North American portfolio compared with 2018. A couple of years ago, the Atlanta-based firm pledged to collect and recycle a bottle or can for each one it sells globally by 2030. Nestle and PepsiCo, also among the top polluters, have also taken steps to redesign packaging and reduce waste.
And those are the latest from around the world. I'm Mike Wallace, and this is TFT News.